Good afternoon, recruitment junkies. We are here with Ben Browning, Sales Enablement Manager from Venn Group, and we are talking about how to manage your own motivation whilst working from home. So, hello, Ben.
Hi, Alex. Hi, recruitment gym members.
Yes, fantastic to have you here, and everyone's learning something new over the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, haven't we all? It's been quite a roller coaster, and I think that we're starting maybe to see some wins amongst the challenges as well. So, some definitely hearing some positive stories from the people I've been talking to so far this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll talk about some of those in a minute. But what we're here today, I know we're talking about motivating yourself working from home, and I know, Ben, you're a massive. Whilst you do a lot of recruitment training, I know you love the psychological aspect of motivation and performance management, etc. So, in your mind, what are some of the biggest challenges individuals will face when working from home?
Well, I guess one of the big ones when we think about motivation in particular is that we've stepped out of the office environment. We've stepped out of that environment and that routine where we've got all those subconscious cues. It might be in particular the social proof of the colleagues around us. I think one of the things that motivates or used to motivate me a lot when I was a consultant was seeing who else was putting deals on the board, who else was putting numbers up, making placements, who else was generating good candidates, and who else, frankly, was on the phone a lot of the time as well. So some of that, when we lose that social proof, we lose those social cues. It can be a difficult environment to motivate yourself when you're on your own in your bedroom.
Yeah, and I guess I'm lucky enough where I've got a room in the house that I can feel like it's an office. I guess there's lots of recruiters that don't live in situations where they have a room dedicated to work, or it might be they've got 3 or 4 friends that are working from those same spaces as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that physical space is such an important point, particularly in that mental transition. You know, the first few days that I was working from home, I was finding not having a commute, both to and from work, a really interesting challenge. I didn't have any kind of ramp up time and cool off time at the end of both ends of the day. So that presents an interesting challenge in itself.
And I think sort of that, I know a few people that what they've done is when they're going to start work, they walk around the block. They do their daily walk at the start of the day, basically, and they come in and go, "Hello, everybody! I'm back at work." and sort of like, and sort of just like now they've got their work head on.
Yeah, and that of course relies on us having the motivation to get out of the bed and put some proper clothes on before we get out the front door in the morning, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that depends on. I think everyone knows they should be working. I think a lot of recruiters are struggling for purpose at the moment. It's like, why am I ringing a client when I know they're not going to be recruiting? Why am I ringing candidates when they're going to be at home and they're probably not in? Like, we can talk ourselves out of a lot of the reasons to do the things we normally do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I talk with our guys a lot about is the fact that recruiters that win long term are the ones that really embody the principle that your job as a recruiter isn't just about filling jobs. It isn't just about placing candidates. What it's really about, at essence, is helping people get better results. And when you own that and when you embody that, what you start doing is you start looking for different ways to present those results. So we talk about kind of going out to the market and finding stories about how other people are getting those good results, whether that's helping clients with video interviews or candidates with video interviews, whether it's what I think is possibly the holy grail at the moment, which is how do you onboard a remote worker? You know, if you're placing a temp for a month, it's possible that the manager won't actually ever meet them. So how do you give a hiring manager confidence and trust around that process? If you can start answering those questions from a perspective of enabling people to get better results, then your world begins to shift, and then you become much more valuable to the people that you're serving.
So what you're saying is sort of measure success by the problems that you can solve for your clients. So, for instance, how do I get an interview at the same level of quality virtually as I get face to face? That's my project for the day, and I'm going to speak to people to find that out, and then you've got something to share.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, we kind of talk in recruitment terms, and actually in any project management space, or a lot of different spaces. In fact, is what I call the kind of the grand designs paradox, which is the idea of budget, time, and quality. You know, you got, if any of those three things are in conflict, then we've got some challenges. I call it the grand designs paradox, because it's kind of the principle that program is based on, right? Either there's not enough time, or there's not enough money, or the spec and the requirement is too extreme. So, you know, I haven't quite got to the point of sending hiring managers DVDs of grand design saying this is what's going to happen unless you flex the spec, but it's crossed my mind once or twice.
Yeah.
And so those are the three challenges where, if you're going to be a purposeful recruiter who really embodies that piece of helping your clients get better results, focusing on time, quality, and cost, is going to be a really nice way to kind of work into that conversation.
And I think recruiters often, especially in a good market, they get so caught up in the market where they're just a CV machine, and actually sometimes forget that half of our service and a lot of our value, if we want to be worth any more than anyone else, is around how do we make that recruitment process better? How do we serve the client needs at a time when generally they're forced to do something they hate to do?
Yeah, and that's never truer than at the moment, right? So I was kind of talking to a couple of colleagues a little while ago and saying, you know, actually, we're hearing, I'm sure lots of people watching us on this session are thinking, you know, my clients are saying they're not actually worried about recruitment process. They're telling me, I don't want to talk about recruitment right now at all. So the question then is, okay, what are you focused on? What are your priorities? What is important to you? You know, what services, what deliverables have you got to deliver? And is bringing in talent going to support that? Or you know, when you do need to recruit, if you are in that tight spot, if you're running a service or delivering a kind of a process to a business that is in need of additional staff, then how are you managing that? Because there's so many fires kind of going on around you, I'm sure, that focusing on recruitment is really tricky. So what you really need right now more than ever is one recruiter who you can totally trust from end to end. I think the opportunity for doing exclusive business, retained business, those sorts of things at the moment is much higher, because it's about simplifying something that right now your client absolutely doesn't have bandwidth for. So my kind of point to kind of close that would be when a client says, you know, we don't have the bandwidth to think about recruitment right now, you say, absolutely, and I totally understand that. What I'd like to do is put you in a position where you don't have to think about it at all.
Right. Okay. So you're using this as a way to sort of help them reduce hassle in the future as well as today.
Absolutely. You know, recruitment, effectively, a large part of it is about having an insurance plan. What do you do when you are in that position of needing that additional resource, and what do you do when those problems come up? So there's a whole piece there around motivation, around purpose, around providing solutions, and taking a bit more of a service mindset, which hopefully will underpin some better quality conversations for recruiters at the moment.
Right. Okay. That's interesting, and I guess it's just working with your managers, your teams, to sort of think, well, how would we angle that? I think a sure win at the moment is sharing tips and tricks on how to keep teams engaged. My latest tip for team engagement is an app called Dinosaurus, and basically it's an online Pictionary, and you can create your own private room, and then you can play Pictionary with everyone in your team. And I've now spoken to 2 clients that are basically doing a team Pictionary between 2 and 3 every day, and they're just doing a team fun game, as it were. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, if you look at any of these kind of wellbeing blogs and all the stuff around team morale at the moment, team motivation, I know we're kind of talking about self-motivation today, but if you look at that, all that stuff around team motivation, it's over communicating. So I encourage the leaders that I work with to record their daily pep talks, record their daily videos, send them out to their staff remotely. If they can't jump on a video call with everybody, then sending that out as a video, or sending those messages, so that you've got that kind of leadership piece, and you've got the face to that leadership message. kind
Nice,
of coming
okay.
through to people all the time.
So even if that's just like recording it on your phone and posting it in Slack or Teams or whatever WhatsApp sort of group you use.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly right. And it's just that, again, it's just putting their face to that motivational message for the day. It's just that piece around, this is why we're doing this. This is why it's important. These are the client wins that we've had in the last couple of days. This is the feedback that we're hearing from people who need our support right now. And there are people out there who need our support right now. So yeah, whether that support be directly around recruitment processes and delivering hiring, or whether it be around strategies and kind of longer term planning, or whether it be around, as you say, those hints and tips around how to engage your employees and those sorts of things. Lots of different ways to approach marketing right now too.
So one of the what someone sort of put a couple of comments in there, Ben, which is they need ways of demotivating themselves at home, specifically how not to be raiding the biscuit cupboard. So we got tips and tricks on how not to spend your whole day eating.
I'm definitely not the person to ask about that, Alex. But one of the things that I baked into, I see I'm using the puns there. One of the things that I baked into a course that I was writing recently on well-being and doing some well-being workshops was actually the idea of just structure and routine. And we come back, like I sort of mentioned that right at the start. We come back to that idea now. There isn't that. We haven't got those social cues around us. We haven't got the office environment, the structure of it around us. So we are, we've created a void where all our old structures and routines sit, and we often the brain takes a shortcut to fill that. And if that's going to the biscuit tin or going to the fridge, or actually not being quite as focused and motivated as we otherwise might be, putting the TV on or playing computer games, whatever that might look like for you. When we take those structures out, we tend to replace them with potentially not necessarily bad habits or damaging habits, but certainly not motivating factors.
And also I think looking at those new compulsive behaviors, they are a sign of stress, and that's the lack of routine, the loss of that rhythm, the uncertainty that will be impacting many individuals. I know those that are furloughed, that it's a holding pattern really for 2 months. And everyone knows that what goes into furlough might not necessarily come out of furlough from a business perspective. And that makes it, that in itself is looking at where if I'm snacking mostly, then that's obviously some sort of stress going on in my head, and I need to work through that stress to sort of make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, indeed. I think that one of the biggest challenges for me in the past, when I've been working from home for any prolonged period at all, and obviously this is an unprecedented situation, but I have had some experience of it in the past. And one of the things that I've kind of brought in to tackle that lack of routine and all the rest of it is a little bit of kind of using the principle of scarcity, really, thinking about that in two ways. So either thinking about making tasks or tackling tasks that are more urgent or important. Urgency, obviously, reducing the time that I have to get a piece of work done, maybe working in sprints or the Pomodoro technique, where you've got 25 minutes to make, let's say you've got a list of 25 names. I'm going to call through that in 25 minutes.
And I was going to mention Pomodoro. There's loads of apps for Pomodoros, isn't there, where you can, on your desktop, you can have and some of them even allow you to allocate Pomodoros to certain tasks. So at the end of the day, you can say, I've got 2 Pomodoros on A, B, or C.
Yeah, and if anybody listening to this hasn't tried it yet, particularly in this kind of working from home environment, the challenge that we get is that you see a long period of time. You start your day at whatever it is, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then you're thinking about finishing up or 5 or 6 or whatever your hours look like, and there's no landmarks in there, there's no structure in there, there's no people around you moving around, there's no kind of defined lunchtime necessarily. You might have a couple of catch-ups with your team, probably should be having more at the moment, but working in shorter chunks, shorter blocks, for me is one of the best ways to motivate yourself, because you set a deadline and our brains love a finishing point. You've got to keep disciplined around those, but it's a really effective way of kind of getting more done.
Yeah, and it's I think especially if you've got parents where 2 of them are trying to work whilst they're looking after children, I think it's very much around sort of having that plan at the beginning of the day, and sort of like my wife and I, we've got an office space where it's sort of like that's where the person's working is, and then everywhere else is the ones looking after the monkeys. So so that's an important thing. Although Sarah said I think her snacking's down to being pregnant. So you can snack as much as you want, Sarah. So what about the flip side to motivation of working at home? How do you stop work becoming everything at home? I know I struggle with that. I sort of see the computer and I get drawn in because there's always something more that I could have done.
Yeah, I think there are two things that work really well for this. The first one is thinking about how you're managing your daily achievements and your daily to-do lists. Now, again, to-do lists are often seen as a productivity tool that we naturally tend towards as recruiters, but actually in terms of real true productivity, a to-do list isn't necessarily the best tool. I don't know whether you've ever had this experience, but you've got a long list of to-dos and you flick through them, or you feel like you've done a good chunk of them, but actually they're not prioritized effectively. And what you get to is you get 3/4 of the way through the list, and you feel kind of productive in one sense. On the other hand, you reflect that maybe you haven't got anything important done today. So really being honest around prioritizing those to-do lists is
that's where I break my day into proactive tasks and reactive tasks. So the proactive tasks are those maybe activities that don't have an immediate gain, or things that I know I need to do, but I've been putting off and it's important for the future. And so I sort of, at the moment, I'm setting myself like one proactive task that I need to achieve today. And if I've done that task, then I can sort of pat myself on the back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, as you were saying that, there's this piece around, I love to work in a similar way, proactive and reactive. The work that I do now is much more, gives me much more opportunity to be proactive. Work in an organization that's predominantly focused on interim and temp recruitment. And when I start talking to our guys about having some proactiveness in your day, it's like, well, when? Because the phone doesn't stop ringing and the emails don't stop coming in. And how do I break away to do that? And as much as I say, you got to try and carve out time. You've got to box the time off for that. Set yourself a 25-minute Pomodoro where you're just focused on that one proactive task. Whilst that's really kind of key and important, it's difficult for them to balance effectively. It's difficult for them to manage their time to get some space. I can just all I can do really around that is redouble the message, and particularly if you're thinking about wanting to get towards the end of the day and having a cut-off point, knowing that you'll never get to the bottom of incoming emails and receiving calls, but knowing that you can take control or have a bit more control of your proactive work is again something well worth thinking about.
And some days you've got an hour to be proactive, some days you've got half an hour, but it's feeling like you've done that. I've seen quite a lot of noise in social media, Ben, around getting yourself like an accountability partner while working from home. A bit like when you're sitting to your mate at a desk. What's your experience of sort of buddies and partners, accountability partners to help drive productivity?
Yeah, I mean, I think again that's key. I posted a bit of a tongue-in-cheek video yesterday talking about whether we know any recruiters out there who are a little bit competitive, and setting a stretch target, setting a mid-level goal, and setting a base level goal for each session, whether that be a Pomodoros, whether that be a longer period of time, and then comparing with each other. How did you get on? Did you hit your stretch goal? If you do, that's a gold medal. If you hit your kind of mid-level goal, that's a silver. And if not, then if you hit your base level target, then that's a bronze. And then at the end of the week or at the end of the period, you can tot up the medals and see who comes out on top on the medal table. So maybe a little bit of competition, but equally you can do that without the competition element, depending on your temperament. Just having that conversation around, okay, what are you trying to achieve today? Do you think you could get a little bit more out of it? The really interesting implications for that, as I say, I think I've taken the opportunity to buddy up with people across the industry, not even within your team or within your unit if you're a bigger business, but actually talking to people across the industry about buddying.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. I know a lot of solopreneurs are struggling with that, where they've got business melting down at the same time as that, and finding almost like an outlet to say, right, well, this is what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to call you at the end of the day and say, so I'm struggling with planning at the moment, and a friend of mine helped me, and he sent me a text last night going, how's the plan? And I was like, on fire. And he's like, well, what are you going to do about it? And it's just like, and so today I'm thinking I need to put some time for planning, because I know he's going to be following up. And that's because I've sort of asked him to. So yeah, which is good.
That's one of my favorite questions, and actually one of the best consultants that I've worked with. I used to dig all the time, because every time I'd see him, I'd be like, so what's the plan, Ross? What's the plan, Ross? So yeah, you never got quite clear into that one.
Fantastic. Well, Ben, we're at the end of our time. Hopefully those that are listening live have got some tips and tricks in order to stay motivated at home. I think at the heart of it, it comes down to purpose. It's thinking about, when you get back to work, what do you want your candidates to think about you, your customers to think about you, your clients, your colleagues? And it's knowing that you're working for a perception or a feeling that you want when you end up going back to work. So any closing thoughts, Ben?
Just one, really, and it's on that. It's this idea that there is a post-COVID-19 world waiting for us. We don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but one of the things that I'm working towards at the moment is putting myself in the best possible position to be fighting fit and ready and raring to go for when that comes. That doesn't mean that I'm forsaking the stuff that I need to do right now, but it does mean I've got one eye on not getting complacent and being motivated by the fact that when the dust settles, I want to be closer to the end of my goals for the year than I am right now.
Good. Fantastic. Well, on that note, I'll say thank you very much, Ben. Fantastic. I know you contribute in the gym regularly as well. And you can find Ben on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'd be happy to connect with you. He always shares great videos and has a fantastic approach to growing at your own desk and building strong relationships with all sorts of customers. So thanks again, Ben. And we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody. See you later. Bye.